And welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick Lamparelli. I am grateful to finish off a Friday with my new most interesting friend in the world, and you'll find out why. Bruce Broussard, managing director of Percipience. Bruce, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Nick. So happy to join you today. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, Bruce, today we're going to be talking about percipients and some of the interesting solutions that we talked about when we met at ITC. And we like to start off all of these conversations, Bruce, by allowing our guests to have a little platform for an elevator pitch. So,
Sure.
who is Bruce Broussard, and what led you? Maybe give a couple sentences as well for an elevator pitch for percipients.
Sure. Thanks. Uh, so I am, unabashedly an insurance nerd. Started uh, in this industry right out of college. I don't know that anybody ever actually chooses insurance, but somehow it
True.
chooses a lot of us.
It's so
Um,
true.
but been here, worked for an insurer for 15 years, eventually ran IT for that international multi-line organization. Then joined IBM, was an associate partner in their insurance consulting business. For 15 years, I ran their global insurance data products and services and got a chance to implement data and analytics solutions and reporting and data warehousing solutions at most of the insurers that you might see advertising on the air
Mhm.
at any time during any sporting event. And so got a lot of experience there. Wanted to get into software, and that was not something that IBM was interested in at the industry level. And so went to Insurity, and we actually were able to develop and bring to market the first insurance data software product that was available. And now all the core vendors pretty much have a data product that they offer, and very proud of what we did there. And then a few years ago, we decided that we had done about everything we could do at Insurity, but there were still a lot of opportunities in this market and of insurance data that weren't being met. And so my partner Jay Kelshiker and I, who have worked together for over 20 years now at multiple stops, we decided that we would kind of step out, start Percipience, and see how we could kind of address those problems in a more unique way.
Yeah. So, can we dig into that specific problem? Right. So, insurance data can mean lots of things to lots of people. Can you talk about? You said there was more work to be done. What was the problem? What were some of the things that you were seeing that you just felt as though it needed a deeper focus or an isolated focus to actually solve that? What did you see that sort of led you to? We're going to have to do this with a startup. Like, this is probably the better way for us to actually solve this problem.
Yeah, I think there were really a few different things. One was right off the bat that companies, more than two-thirds of US property and casualty insurers have three or more different brands of policy administration systems in-house. And so what we were seeing, we were trying to sell things at either IBM or Insurity. You're looking at a certain brand, and those data solutions are really built more to integrate with their policy billing claim solutions and stuff. But most insurers really have multiple brands and don't want to be locked in to one vendor there. And so that became an obstacle to getting our software solution out. So we knew that we wanted to be independent of any of the back end systems and really give the insurers and the insurance organizations the freedom to get any kind of transaction processing systems that they needed and still know that they could get that data effectively in an effective warehouse and make it available for analytics. Secondly, more and more data has just become available, right? And there aren't a lot of areas where you can argue that insurance is kind of leading edge. But when you think about information and the information available to help assess risk, to assess and process claims, to look at things in a more holistic way, and the increasing number of acquisitions and startups in the area, data has just become available in so many more sources that it wasn't just coming from somebody's policy billing or claim system. And so they needed a data model and a data solution that was capable of bringing the data in from all these different sources, regardless of what brand it was on. And then I think most people really wanted to build their own. They don't necessarily have the money to build their own. They don't necessarily have the patience to build their own. And often they don't necessarily have the skill to build their own. But it may not be even that they want to build their own, but they want to have control of their data solution. They want to be able to extend it. They don't want to have to worry about being dependent on some vendor to, oh my gosh, we happen to decide or determine that whether or not a homeowner has a red door lowers their risk, or whatever unique attribute or insights they may gather. Well, do I have to wait for the vendor to make that important and make that available in the software? So one of the other things that we really wanted to focus on was creating a construct where we could provide a base software product, but deliver it with all of the documentation that an insurance organization would have if they had developed it themselves, and give them and arm them with everything that they need to either A, take advantage of our services should they need to, work with any of their partners if they choose to do that, or to do the work themselves independently of us should they need to. Because one of my favorite bosses of all time had a great line. He said, if you've met one insurance company, you've met one insurance company. They're all a little bit different. They all are successful for a set of different reasons, and allowing them the flexibility with the solution to give them a solution that's going to be 95% of what they need out of the box, but they have the ability to very cost effectively and quickly add their special sauce and make it their own and build it into a competitive advantage, was just an opportunity that we couldn't resist.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize, because just to make sure that folks that are listening to this that may not have that experience of dealing with policy systems, insurance administration systems. When we were talking at ITC, I gave you my particular example of a project I was working on, where for a single policy, data was scattered across 3 systems, right? 2 policy systems, right? So break the policy, and there was a construction code on one system and a different code on another system. And then there was the accounting system. And we could not tie the premium from those policy systems to the accounting systems, which was the accounting system of record, right? And so, Bruce, I think folks who hear these stories would say, well, isn't the solution just getting it all onto one system? What would you say?
Yeah, I think people have been trying to do that for the last 2 decades, and a lot of people who continue to advocate that are probably looking for work right now. So I think the reality is that it's a heck of a lot more expensive and more difficult to consolidate policy, billing, and claim systems than it is to aggregate the data across those systems. And the reality is that no one policy system is great for everything. You're dealing with, and a lot of times, large insurers that have commercial business, personal lines business, specialty business. They may do work with MGAs and program business and TPAs. And there are each of these different systems, whether it's a Guidewire, a Duck Creek, or Insurity, or Majesco, or Sapiens, or OneShield, whoever you want to pull out, or any of the 50 startups that are out there. All of them have particular strengths. They all fill a unique need. And it's not like one is clearly better for all things. Having worked with virtually all of them and integrated with all of them over my career, I can tell you for sure that is the case. They all have their strengths. What pulling it in at the data standpoint, regardless of whether it's Percipience and our data magnifier product or not, just architecturally and philosophically, it is so much faster, so much more cost effective to aggregate at a data level and get all of the benefits of having aggregated all those systems without having to pay the cost. Also, you've got companies that are acquiring other companies and companies that are merging. As they go through this process, are they going to continue to go through this process forever? It's just not sustainable, and it's not cost effective. The cost it takes to integrate, you may be able to pull in a new policy system and billing and claims with 15 lines of business for a couple $1 million. It may cost you 15 to 20 to bring in just the policy system for that same set of lines. And so, seeing a lot of people lose their jobs over that. And so I kind of look at us as saving people jobs in addition to making this a lot
Yeah.
quicker.
Yeah. And in my particular example, that was the legacy. Like I think a lot of folks from the outside look in and they're just like, how can you let it get that bad? Right. But you bring up like some very good points around lines of business act and behave differently. And you want your different lines to essentially have the technology that they need. And it's difficult to make one single technology that can handle commercial and personal lines equally. So that's a challenge. But the bigger challenge as well is like when you start making acquisitions, which was in my particular example, systems that were kind of spreading this data out, they made so many acquisitions that it was impossible for them to get them onto one system. So you had this disparate patchwork of solutions that created its own unique problem. And in this particular case, it was data that was scattered across two mainframes and one server. That's
No,
going to be a challenge. You must have seen a million of those.
well, it's a very common story. And I think, a lot of times you'll see folks, they'll make an attempt to try and consolidate the systems and stuff. And once they see kind of what the time and cost is, and it's not just the time and cost, it's the diversion of your key resources that are required to pull those kinds of consolidations off that are really under the covers of little value other than cost consolidation.
Mm.
Um, the things that you occupy your most talented resources to do that keeps them from being able to focus on growing the business, really helping you make a digital transformation that makes you unique in the marketplace and adds capabilities to your customers, your agents, your distribution channels, opening up new distribution and product opportunities. These kinds of policy admin and claims consolidations are enormously resource intensive pieces. You can consolidate the same data for a fraction of the same. The reality is, no matter what, regardless of what brand policy admin system you have, everybody's got a policy number somewhere. Everybody's got the amount of the deductibles. Everybody's got the coverage amounts and how much the premiums are and all those things stored. They're all stored a little bit differently, but you can spend one chance and a one-time effort to aggregate those and conform those into a consistent view so that at an enterprise level, you can look at things independently, you can look across systems, and you can get insights at the data level that are scalable, whether you're acquiring new systems, new businesses, or new partners.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick on this just for a little bit longer, just because
Yeah.
I think because every time you give me an answer, it reminds me of some issue or some conversation to explain why this problem particularly exists. I remember having a conversation with a Chubb technologist who was describing how, as these firms that build software for insurance companies evolve, they need to expand as well. So it's very easy for a policy management system developer needing to bolt on a claims system,
Yeah.
bolt on a billing system. He brought up the billing part and he said, Nick, it's not possible for them to be experts at billing because there are already companies out there that are experts at billing and they're moving as fast as you can possibly move and they're ahead of the game, right? So they can do things, and he made things up, but their ability to 20 years ago, it was challenging to pay with your credit card. Insurance companies weren't set up for that. But in every other industry, it was not challenging. And so you see like the Stripes of the world and things like that, but also crypto. And not that insurance would ever like engage in that, but there are firms out there who develop particular siloed expertise and can move quicker. And he was really explaining to me how, in the quest to kind of consolidate to one system, you end up giving up a lot around that. You can't do things with billing, you can't do things with claims. And so there's something to be said about having disparate systems around the expertise that gets developed there. and figuring out a different mechanism to aggregate aggregate that data to a different system that then has expertise to do the manipulation you needed to do, right?
No, that's exactly right. And even to build on that a little bit, what we often see are some of the larger companies that have well-established policy billing and claims system sets for different sets of business, but they want to explore maybe a new product line. And we see them sometimes licensing and subscribing to one of the newer startups that
Mm-hmm.
allow them to get online and test different theories and manipulate the processes and stuff much more quickly, and at a much lower cost point. And then they can evolve. And if it turns out to be a big thing, they can evaluate kind of where they want to go with the platform. But having the ability to and the way we look at it is we view kind of the data platform that we provide and data platforms in general as a layer of insulation between the digital consumer focused services that an insurance company provides and the back end processing of that business. They can have whatever they need at the back end, as many of them as disparate and different as they need. But at the data level, we can consolidate and we can support customer service centers. We can support online and pull all of that together rather than, what maybe we used to see 5, 6 years ago where you call customer service, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, your claim is on that system. I'll have to log into that. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so those are the kind of problems that nobody wants to see anymore. In the digital age, insurance companies are not just competing with insurance companies. We're competing with everyone else that sells to the public. And people don't accept any less than that. And so I think the kind of products that we provide at the data layer, I think hopefully we'd like to think help enable companies to advance their service capabilities significantly.
Yeah, and that was a big part of the conversation we had at ITC. Because if you explore your website, one of the key taglines that I think emerges over and over is just start where you are, right? And so we talked about that, and you talked about the importance of the solution, the effectiveness of it, but also the economics of it, because you've hinted now a couple of times like how expensive it is to create new systems and do these other things, right? Start where you are was your recognition, being a technologist, that geez, starting over all the time or consolidating this, like that's going to be more expensive and potentially more difficult. You wanted to create a solution where it's like, okay, just we can use what you have. We will create the layer of technology that can consolidate that. Why is start where you are just so critically important, not only as a solution, but in terms of the economics of the solution?
No, and you're exactly right. And nobody is starting from scratch, right? The insurance companies have all these assets that have evolved over many, many years, and they have served the business as well. And they continue to be dependent on those, but they need different types of access to them in the digital age. And so nobody wants to just say, okay, yeah, I'm happy to talk to you, Percipience, about data magnifier, and I'm going to throw away everything that I have done to do that. No, everyone has some data assets. You've got data buried in your policy billing and claim systems. You may have a data mart that's supporting your actuarial department or doing regulatory reporting or some things, but maybe you don't have all of the data pulled in from all your systems. Maybe you don't have all the financials pulled in. Maybe you don't have the ability to really support your distribution channel as well. And so the way we've structured our product, it's component based so that people can subscribe to only the components that they need. And we've had some clients who have said, well, look, I've already got kind of a data warehouse, but the way we built our data warehouse, reporting really isn't very easy. We just can't deliver the data to our actuaries, to our users for regulatory reporting and those kind of things. And okay, well, they looked and they happened to subscribe to our data marts and our reporting layer. and we were able to integrate it with the ODS that they already had. And boom, they didn't have to throw everything away. They didn't have to start over, but they were able to build on what they had, and they were able to get to a solution very effectively. And so, I think Jay and I, and one of the reasons that I think we work so well together is we often think very differently about things, but we always think about things from the CIO of an insurance organization standpoint. What kind of problems did we have to solve? Jay was also a former CIO at an insurer before he joined PwC and then got acquired by IBM, where he and I met. But we both try to think about these things as, what would we be looking for and what do we need in this space? And we feel like as long as we kind of create our solution with that in mind, we're going to be going down the right path. I think, the minute we start thinking about, how do we just sell more, then things become a lot more difficult as a business, right? But I think there are so many opportunities for insurers to add value to their distribution network and to their customer network, that we can help support. It's just this is kind of an exciting time as a technologist, and being a technologist in the insurance industry is one of the few periods where you actually get to do some things that are more bleeding edge, taking advantage of AI and machine learning and some of those kind of things, and really applying it to things that really help people in the world. And that part of it's exciting to us.
Yeah. And another aspect of our conversation was, given your background, was how insurers, given the experience on the team, how insurers think about this thing. If you look at the last 20 years, man, technology has changed, right? And I think the biggest challenge insurers have is this fear that the thing that they're investing in is going to become obsolete, that it's got a half-life, because that didn't happen more than 20 years ago. Like, we went through like very long periods of time where you could use a mainframe. There were very long periods of time where certain technologies were foundational. You didn't have to constantly make investments. And one of the things I got from Percipience and the way you guys think about this is you are peering out into the future. So there's a value in the partnership, I think, that Percipience brings to the table, in that you could probably have conversations with you folks around IoT data. How should we be thinking about this? And I think that's something that might be missing from a lot of relationships, is insurers have been burned, right? Or they feel burned because they invested in this new server technology, and 10 years later, it's like everyone's moving to the cloud, right? And they're just like, what, and now we have to like reinvest with that. It's almost like folks who buy an LP album, then they buy a cassette tape, then they buy a DVD. Now they have to buy the same song on a streaming service. Like, what's the next thing that I'm going to have to, buy Stairway to Heaven from? Can you talk a little bit about that part of your business philosophy, where it does feel as though Percipience, like, because of your backgrounds, it does feel very consultative in how you all approach your solutions?
No, you're exactly right. Again, I think we view this as selling a solution, not a technology product, right? So, going back to what I said before, Jay and I want to think about this as CIOs, and especially on the data platforms. Tremendous investments are going in as technology continues to expand here. As people going in and trying to get insight into their book of business, manage risk, offer the best prices that they can, and still be profitable. Manage claims, weed out fraud, all these kinds of things that insurers have to do on a regular basis to be effective and profitable and continue to be market leaders. And we look at that and say, 10 years ago, nobody was talking about cloud. Even 5 years ago in the insurance industry, not a lot of people were taking advantage of the cloud. Now, every conversation we have, their technology is going on the cloud, right? I don't know what the technology is going to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. What I can tell you is that Percipience and our data magnifier product will be there. And the reason I can say that is we actually offer our product on all cloud platforms and with any tool set. And so I think what's a little bit unique there, it is a software product. Like I said, we deliver with all the documentation and we can migrate it to any platform. We actually had one of our clients start on Microsoft Azure and mid-project decide they were going to switch to Google Cloud. And in 3 weeks, we migrated everything from Azure to Google Cloud, and they were up on Google Cloud. And so we've got people in production on Snowflake and AWS and Google Cloud and Azure. And so we've got clients on different technologies. And so we've proven our ability to do that. And the key is not just kind of with this set of technologies, we're going to stay up kind of as new technologies and tools stay in, because we want the investment that people make in this solution to be available and pay off for them for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, long after my career ends. Although I'd love to have it last that long, it's unfortunately not practical. But I think, I actually had at ITC, I had lunch with a gentleman who used to be a partner of mine. He ended up being CIO of the company I was at before I joined IBM. And he got there about 20 years after I left. And we just happened to run into each other on the driving range of the country club that I belonged to. And I had no idea he had moved to the area from Chicago. And we're wondering, what are you doing here? This is what I'm doing. And like, oh, I built some of those systems. And we started talking, oh my God, those systems are still there. And so it just kind of reinforces the way we think about things. We think about things have to last. You can't sell systems that are only designed to be there for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. We've got to have the ability to migrate. And so the whole way we've architected Data Magnifier is with a future-proofing view. It's got to be supportive now. You've got to be able to get help from us and extend it yourself so that you have control over your solution and your cost. But you've also got to know that it's going to survive the technology changes and evolution that none of us know exactly what they are, but we know they're coming. Yeah. And so that's so important. It's ingrained into just the base culture of the way we think about the problem.
Yeah. And I think it's a diametrically opposite of a lot of technologists who come into the insurance space who are viewing what has happened and it's like, oh, I can do something better. And they possibly can do something better, but it's such short-term thinking. They don't realize that the real economics comes from thinking 20, 40 years out and having systems that are flexible so that you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel within these organizations, because there's just the margins in insurance are not big enough to support that kind of reinvention decade after decade after decade. It does need a degree of stability around the data, around the workflow, and around the costs around that. And so I think that is something that kind of really stands out when talking to you. You weren't a technologist who came into insurance, especially not recently. You were a technologist and an insurance professional at a very young age and kind of matured with both over time.
Yeah, no, I think you have to be able to solve today's problem in a way that survives tomorrow.
I like that.
And that's really the way we think about everything that we do. We try to, we're not selling software, we're solving a problem. And the biggest, all the insurers want to take advantage of AI and machine learning and the advanced capabilities and the new capabilities that are going to come out a year from now and 2 and 3 and 4 years from now. But so many of them struggle because they don't have control of their own data to make it available for use in these new technologies. And that's really the most basic aspect of what we solve for them. We can take data from anywhere and make it available for anything.
Yeah. And that wasn't, we had a really nice lunch and a really nice conversation, and that wasn't even the most interesting part of the particular conversation, because I think someone who's watching this would see Bruce Broussard, managing director or managing partner of Percipience, and see that you have a computer science degree, and they might have a particular opinion of you. You know, hey, he's a good Southern boy. Look at, he's rooting for LSU, good Louisianan, around that. But I learned a little tidbit from you as a computer scientist. You recognized as you were coming up through your career that it was going to be a challenge for you to stay on top of the most recent technologies, because you were busy. You were busy managing teams and businesses and building stuff. And you were, and that's an interesting thing around technologists, is like, once you build something, it is you own that thing, and it's difficult for you to evolve. You're evolving with that thing and not necessarily with all of the technology that's coming up behind you. And so we had a conversation about how you keep your skills sharp. I think it's very worthwhile, because I think it explains a lot of how you think about percipience as well. Talk a little bit about that conversation. How have you been able to stay on top of the latest technologies and the latest trends? Talk about how you keep your skills sharp.
Well, yeah, I think it's hard to be credible if you aren't keeping up with the current trends. Technology moves so quickly, and certainly as I moved into more of a manager role and that kind of stuff, and got out of actually writing code and architecting and designing systems at a detail level to make a living. I just saw how much technology changed just in the short period where I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It became pretty obvious to me that that was not going to be a sustainable model if I wanted to have a career in technology that lasted, more than 5 or 10 years. So I just kind of made a commitment that I was going to find some things that I was interested in, and I would do some things on the side in the latest technology so that I could stay up with them. And I have my brother to blame for this. My brother had was playing golf with a friend of his who was a very avid horse racing wager. As a matter of fact, he is the only person in the world who has won the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge twice. And he had a number of friends that worked together and bet a lot and very interested in horses. And they happened to be playing golf together one day, and he was watching races the entire time they were playing golf on his phone and making bets and stuff, and made an offhand comment to my brother that, if we could find someone who was good with building software, I'll bet we could build software to bet a lot more, and we could make lots and lots of money doing this. Well, my brother, being the inappropriately proud brother that he is, said, I need to introduce you to my brother. And we had a conversation the next night, and for the last several years, I have worked with them, and I knew nothing about horse racing at all. And so they've been teaching me horse racing, and we've been building software, and so we built some software that makes bets, and the computer just kind of decides what races it wants to bet, and it texts us all every time it made a bet, and if it wins, it'll text us a little birdie to say that it won, and it's hilarious. It's allowed me to really kind of stay up, and each year in the last 3 years I've rewritten it. Now I'm just completing my third rewrite of the software on a new set of technology now, that to give myself exposure to new tools, new database constructs. And it also helps me figure out, one of the things we do at Percipience, we want to be able to move our software from platform to platform, tool set to tool set. And doing that allows me to take, okay, these are assets that work well in the last version. I'll migrate those over. What challenges did I have in doing that? What would I do differently in how that was constructed so that would have been easier? And those things kind of flow down. And fortunately at Percipience, I am the dumbest person in the room. So we have people like Ajay and Michael Earl and Brad Kern and just folks that are brilliant at this kind of stuff. They've forgotten more in the last 2 weeks than I'll ever know, but it allows me to collaborate with them I think, to really work to solve legitimate business challenges in what I think is a unique way in the industry, and in a way that I think seems to be resonating with a lot of our clients.
Yeah. Plus, it allows you to see the trend that as it has arrived with you, right? But I think the benefit of doing something like that is it allows you to develop strong opinions about future trends because you've seen the trend behind you, right? You're actually using the new technology and you're doing it in a particular way in some application that's non-trivial, like some application that's has some complexity to it. So I think it allows you to forecast out how the trend may bend or where there's like chinks in the armor, right? Like, okay, yeah, this works for this, but I can see how in these particular use cases this technology might fall down. It might not be stable or whatever. This is my opinion of this. Would you concur?
No, I would agree with that. And I think building on that, I think one of the more underappreciated aspects of technological change is the recognition of opportunity of when to change. Timing is so important. And by keeping up with kind of the trends and seeing what the transitions look like from technology sets to newer technology opportunities, you get an appreciation for how difficult they are, what the opportunities for new growth are, but also what those costs are. And one of the things that we've certainly gained an appreciation of is a lot of times I think insurers tend to make technological changes at the last possible moment, only when done so with a gun to their head, and they have
Mm-hmm.
to, because they're being forced. This version is no longer being supported. This technology is no longer being supported. Now I have to move. Now it's much more expensive because I'm making a bigger jump maybe than I might have had to jump had I done some things more gradually to position myself for this migration along the way. And so I think one of the other things that we're trying to do with our data magnifier product is, as we provide new releases, and we do that twice a year, we're able to make these kind of incremental moves in technology in the product so that we don't have to have our customers make a large jump down the line. And so it's not, I think so many people focus on, what is the subscription cost of software? What is it going to cost me, and how long is it going to take to implement this thing? And certainly those are important. And certainly we want to be very competitive, if not way ahead of the game and our competitors on those aspects. But we put just as much effort into looking at what does it cost to maintain, support, and grow this solution after you have it. Because getting it in and having it for the first year or two or three is only great if it continues to grow. Because again, I don't know. I know what data opportunities are there for you now. I know what's happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you maybe some guesses that may be accurate about the next 6 to 12 months. I'm not going to pretend to be smart enough to tell you what's going to happen 5 years from now, but I know that we want our software positioned so that our customers can take advantage of it. And so I think thinking in that philosophy really positions us to help our customers get there in a cost-effective way and have confidence that the investment they're making in us and our solution is going to be a good one for them and their customers.
Well, Bruce, this was a fantastic conversation, and I can tell you we should be satisfied that we did it. We figured out how to connect horse gambling with insurance technology. It was out there, and somehow you and I arrived at the linkage between horse gambling and insurance technology and the value of doing something like that. But Bruce, this was a fantastic conversation. I think anyone that meets you, I hope they bring this particular point up because it's just it's such an interesting aspect. You're very polite and unassuming, very Southern in your approach, but you're actually one of the most interesting insurance professionals I've come across just in your philosophy and how you think of these things. So I'm grateful and appreciative that we got to spend 40 minutes talking.
Nick, I'm honored to to have been able to join you and appreciate the invitation. And I look forward to continue to working with you and participating in the Insurance Nerds forums and for many years to come.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Thank you.